I mean, look, you could understand why they feel disrespected with all the success they've had since 2006. They've had one winning season, a 77 and 143 record since the year 2006. That's a quality 35% winning percentage. And so you could ultimately understand with the proud history of the last 20 years of the respect that they've earned in the college football landscape, that why Colorado fans would feel entitled and awfully confident.
Thanks for listening to KC Sports Network, proudly presented by Emprise Bank. If you're thinking about starting a business or know someone who is, check out Emprise Bank's SBA loans. It's always good to know your options, and they can be your partner in possible.
Hello and welcome into another edition of Three Ma. I am John Kurtz, joined by Derek Young and Cole Manbeck. Whole crew is here as always. The bye week is over. We are here to preview K-State and Colorado under the very deep into the night lights in Boulder at Folsom Field. K-State's first trip there since 2010. And that calls for a toast, which of course is brought to you by our friends at Holiday Distillery. They've got the Ben Holiday bottled in-bond bourbon and 360 vodka for all your tailgate needs, for all your watch party needs, wherever it is that you're going to be watching the game. You know, Colorado fans, they get a little testy at the stadium. You guys have heard my story. I'm sure I'll tell it again at some point here today. You might need a peace offering, okay? So bring them some Ben Holiday bottled in-bond bourbon. If a Colorado student is going to run up and yell F-bombs in your face, just hand him a little Ben Holiday bottled in-bond bourbon, and I'm sure it will smooth the situation out completely. So we appreciate their support, as always. Great K-State folks who support us here on the pod. Gentlemen, bye week is done. We're ready to get back into it. Now, I do have to go ahead and, on that note, give a nice little welcome to all the Colorado fans that will be watching this, because now, how do I know that Colorado fans will be watching this? Because I've already seen the clips circulating on social media from, for instance, DWise guys at On3 at KSO. They got clipped already. I saw the Go Power Cat crew getting clipped, not even saying anything about Colorado, saying something about Nebraska, because Colorado fans are that desperate for finding any kind of disrespect to throw out there. And I watched no less than 3 YouTube videos last night of people picking Colorado to win. It is a very popular pick. I'm not seeing many people pick K-State to win. Picking Colorado to win, and yet the YouTube comments are littered with Colorado fans still angry, still feeling disrespected, still saying backhanded compliments, still saying you don't pay attention to the defense. So I know Colorado fans are going to find this. I know they will be looking for lots of disrespect. Here's the thing, Colorado fans, eye to eye here for a second. All right. We are aware that the Colorado defense since the second half of the Nebraska game has been very good. We are aware that it's the beginning of the year that's dragging down a lot of those numbers. We are aware that they are improving. We know that they have not allowed more than 7 points in the second half of a game so far this year. And we know that they held UCF 200 yards below their season average on the ground. We are aware of all of these things. So as you refer to your notes, I know it might take some time now. That's going to, you're like scratching out furiously all the notes that you had, all the disrespect points here. It's probably going to take some time to reformulate some new manufactured disrespect here throughout the rest of the show. I just wanted to give you a heads up at the outset that we're aware of those things. We're even aware that the running game has been a little bit better and certainly was very good against UCF. We're aware of all of that. So cross that one off the list too. Manufacture some more hate over the next hour. And hey, by the time you get to the end, when we predict the winner of this game, I don't think all of us are going to pick Colorado to lose. So that's going to make it even more difficult. But I'm issuing that challenge to you, Colorado fans, in the comments. You need to figure out new ways to manufacture disrespect throughout this podcast. So that is what I wanted to say. Cole, do you have anything to say to Colorado fans as we open up the show?
Yeah, I mean, I don't have too much to say. I mean, look, you could understand why they feel disrespected with all the success they've had since 2006. They've had one winning season, a 77 and 143 record since the year 2006. That's a quality 35% winning percentage. And so you could ultimately understand with the proud history of the last 20 years of the respect that they've earned in the college football landscape, that why Colorado fans would feel entitled and awfully confident.
Okay, well, I will step in and at least stay here and start to play my role in the show and say, I can understand how they get into that mindset. First of all, as K-State fans, we don't have a lot of room to talk because K-State fans always operate with this chip on the shoulder, disrespect sort of thing. Second of all, nobody's ever been able to have an honest conversation about Colorado, right? It always turns into either the fanboys veering way too hard on the side of, they're a national championship contender, but there's also this other side that nobody wants to give Coach Prime any respect, hating on the way he conducts himself, runs the program, all that stuff. And it goes way too far the other way. So I understand how they sort of get to that place. I will certainly grant them that. It just feels like the pendulum has swung a little bit too far when people are now rightfully respecting you, treating you like they would treat any football team that had won 4 games last year and being like, oh, hey, now these guys seem to be substantially improved this year. We had to see it, but they now are. Now maybe just chill on that because there's not as much of that out there. So I don't, live your life the way you want to live your life.
They've earned the respect. I mean, they beat a Baylor team that's 2-13 in their last 15 Big 12 games and 5-17 overall over their last 22 games.
You needed a Hail Mary to do it.
Final play of the game. And then they beat a UCF team, John, that went 6-7 last season and 3-6 in the Big 12s, now 3-2, having lost back-to-back games, got dominated by a mid-Florida team last weekend. You could completely understand why they feel like they've earned the respect by knocking off the Bears and those UCF nights.
And Nebraska has looked pretty pedestrian, at least offensively. And I guess that did start with the Colorado defense. And your other one was against an FCS team that hasn't been overly impressive so far this year either.
All right. Well, at least we upgraded that DUI from, like Fitz said, Nebraska was crappy, I believe. You just said pedestrian, so, we're going in the right direction.
What way would you describe Nebraska? I think pedestrian's probably pretty accurate. They for 3 quarters, they struggled away to put probably away the worst Power 4 team in the country in Purdue.
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking about it. I was like, well, what has Colorado done in Boulder so far this year? Well, they beat North Dakota State. It was a good, entertaining game, but probably a bit too entertaining. Same with the Baylor game. Obviously, very much it was. Oh, and we should explain, Colorado fans that are here in the comments, Boulder. Boulder is a city in Colorado. It is where Coach Prime lives. It is where Colorado plays football games. I happened to attend a couple of games there, perhaps before you were born, in 2008 and 2010. So we do seek to just make sure that everybody's on board with understanding what's going on here. So, Cole and I have been tormented by Colorado for a long time. I can remember, first of all, how big of a deal it was when K-State and Colorado tied in 1993, early in the Bill Snyder era. Yes, that's Colorado fans, Google it. There used to be ties in college football. That is a thing that happened. And it was a big deal when K-State tied Colorado in 1993. I can remember 1995, man, heartbroken there. Late turnover by K-State really, really killed them. 94, they kind of got screwed by the refs, but a really good game with Cordell Stewart, another player you guys should Google. Colorado fans should Google Cordell Stewart, Rashawn Salam. That might be a good idea. A lot of fun. Those players are a lot of fun to watch. So we've been doing this for a while. We're aware of just about everything we need to be on the Colorado front. So are we level set? Can we proceed?
Shout out to Colorado for beating Michigan on a Hail Mary in the 1990s. I like that.
Yeah, that wasn't even the first Hail Mary. Go Google that one too. That was Cordell Stewart. So if you Google Cordell Stewart, you'll probably find the 1994 Hail Mary. Yes. Okay, into headlines then. Headline number 1, look, there's a lot more hype to this game than we expected in the offseason, which is very much a credit to Colorado. Also, a little bit a result of K-State losing the way that they did to BYU. And you've got 2 teams here that look, relatively evenly matched. We can certainly poke holes in K-State's resume based on the fact that they got gobsmacked at BYU, which is the same situation they'll be heading into in this game with a Big 12 after dark, late night kickoff on the road at Colorado, and what is going to be a tough environment. And I would also just throw in a lot of the hype about this is the fact that the Big 12 looks very wide open, right? Utah now is coming back to the pack. We don't know what the hell is going on with Cam Rising. Oklahoma State was a team picked in the top 3 of the Big 12, and like Cole wisely predicted, they are a disaster. So the Big 12 feels very, very wide open. I don't think there's a lot of trust from people in BYU or Iowa State, but more so BYU to continue the pace that they're on right now. So, like, obviously, if K-State wins, people are going to think that they're still in the race, but very much so the same is true of Colorado. If they win this game and you start looking at their schedule, I mean, Colorado absolutely is going to be a factor in the Big 12 title race to the very end, it would appear.
Yeah, they're one of 4 teams still undefeated in the conference, right? I believe. It's, BYU, Colorado, Iowa State, and Texas Tech, I want to say, those 4. So the winner of this is really in a really good spot. The loser is in a little bit more of a precarious spot considering what they still have left on the schedule. You kind of alluded to it, and I think there's people out there kind of looking at these records and kind of getting a little probably too paranoid, because regardless of what the schedules kind of look like, I don't think any of those 4 schools, BYU, Texas Tech, Colorado, and Iowa State, are so good that they're going to be immune to 2 or more losses. Like, I think there's a good chance that there might not be a Big 12 team with 1 conference loss or less this year.
I mean, DY, you wrote about this earlier this week, too. You pointed it out. The K-State schedule, which was thought to be one of the easiest in the Big 12 and easiest among Power 4 teams coming into the season, has certainly flipped. I mean, you think about the road games that K-State has played now with BYU being a 5-0 football team, and then you think about, what Colorado has done, being 4-1 out of the gate. I mean, between BYU, Colorado, West Virginia, and then Iowa State, those 4 teams are combined 17-3 right now and 8-0. In Big 12 play, and then you got home games against the Cincinnati and Arizona State teams that were thought to be among the worst that look much improved. So K-State's schedule actually now looks to be one of the more difficult challenges in the Big 12 landscape.
Yeah, it's 5 teams that are undefeated, West Virginia as well. Yep.
God, yeah, you forget about that. West Virginia also unbeaten in the Big 12, man. Yeah. Well, Tech, everyone's looking up at Tech right now, all right? Like, you look up at the top of the Big 12 standings, you're looking at Joey McGuire's rear end right now because they are 3-0. Say what you will about the level of competition, but they're 3-0. I think you need to respect them.
Remember, I brought them up at the beginning of the year saying that's a team that's going to contend for the Big 12 title because of that slate. And their next 2 games are against Baylor and TCU. So it could be 5-0 real quick.
Yeah. We'll see if Baylor and TCU packed it in on the season. More on them later on in the show, by the way. But on this front, let's go ahead and make this our top storyline of the week, which is brought to you by our good friends at Alenco. For all your home improvement needs, make sure you trust our friends and great K-State folks at Alenco, ALENCO, home.com, to get more information on what they can do for you. But I would just pose the question from K-State's standpoint, as you just pointed out, 5 teams unbeaten in Big 12 play already. You do have that loss at BYU. The Cougars are unbeaten. If you lose this game to Colorado, then Colorado remains unbeaten. They've got a tiebreaker over you. A lot of football left to play. And I do think this, people right now have the perception this league's going to beat itself up. But is this a must-win game for K-State to stay in the Big 12 title race? How would you view it?
In a way, yes, because I think if you do lose this, you probably have to win out. That's what I would say. Or you at least, if you have 3 losses, one of them can't beat to Iowa State at the end of the year. Because that 3-loss team probably is going to get into this Big 12 title game, in my opinion. But you're probably in one of those weird-ass tiebreakers that you got to navigate that nobody knows or knows how to define them. So, in a way, yes, I think this is a must-win because basically you have to go, what would it be, 6-0 the rest of the way? And you could probably take a loss if you won this game as long as it's not Iowa State. So in a way, yes, this is a must-win.
Yeah, I view it as a must-win. I mean, to DY's point, if you lose this game, you have no margin for error the remainder of the season. And we just talked about the tough road slate of games that remains with West Virginia next Saturday, and then another night kick there. And then you got Iowa State, which we know is going to be an extremely challenging game to wrap up the season. And so, to me, these next 2 weeks, if K-State can get through it unscathed, if they can win these next 2 road games, and it's going to be a huge challenge, but if they can do that and get to 6-1 on the season and 3-1 in Big 12 play, I think they sit in a great position to get to the Big 12 championship. Because while I did say Cincinnati and Arizona State are improved, the schedule still lightens up significantly at that point. You've got KU at home, at Houston, then Cincy and Arizona State back-to-back at home before playing Iowa State. You get through these next 2 road games, I genuinely think K-State will go into that Iowa State game at 10-1 and 6, what would they be, 7-1 in the Big 12. And then we just have to see how the tiebreakers play out and who's sitting where. I don't know what to make of Utah right now. I don't know what to make a lot of these Big 12 teams. But to get the head-to-head on Colorado would be significant. Oklahoma State is already out of the picture. And then West Virginia, you've got opportunities. The good thing is to wrap up some head-to-head wins against the teams that you're probably going to be contending with to get to Arlington.
From a schedule standpoint, like we were talking about at the beginning of the year, we're like, heck yeah, you get BYU and Colorado on the road. You want your easier games on the road. And now I look at it, I was like, man, I'd rather play TCU and Baylor on the road than BYU and Colorado. And I probably wouldn't have said that before the year.
Well, and you're not getting helped by the fact that, and this is what happens when you're an elite brand like Kansas State, but, playing under the lights all the time and primetime kicks and tough environments. Now doing another late night kick where you're going to get back at 4 a.m, et cetera. Then you got a long trip to Morgantown the following week. Look, there's no excuse about it, but it definitely presents an additional layer or challenge than it would if you were playing an 11 a.m. road kick or a 2:30 p.m. road kick. It's harder to play under the lights on the road. The atmosphere is going to be extremely difficult at Colorado as they're all bought in right now. The energy is at an all-time high.
And in a way, it's good that the West Virginia game was a night game now, because you needed as much time for recovery and preparation as possible following the long trip back from Boulder and getting back early Sunday morning with next to no sleep. Now, you do play in a tougher environment because of it, but I think you might take the good with the bad with that, because an 11 a.m. game in Morgantown would have been extremely tough to navigate.
I mean, yes, but it's still going to be really tough to play back-to-back road night games like this, man. I mean, I know we say tongue-in-cheek, the gargantuan brand bit of this, right? I'll kind of break the third wall, fourth wall, whatever. Level with you that, we're tongue-in-cheek a bit when we say that, but it is true. I mean, this was a team that was expected to be pretty good this year. You've got a high-profile quarterback. Like, people want to see it. People want to see you play. So you're going to get the late-night kick at West Virginia. You're going to get the late night at Colorado. I guess the good news is you're not going to be going west anymore the rest of the year, so you're probably done with like the late night slot. And I know Chris Kleiman mentioned at his press conference this week that they're tinkering with the way that they handle that, like what they're going to do on Friday and Saturday leading up to the game because of what happened at BYU. But hey, the good news about going to Colorado is you guys jogged my memory when talking about this, because it's going to be such a tough environment. Some people, maybe it doesn't happen quite as much anymore, but back in the day it was like you'd have like the portable radio that you brought with you so you can listen to the radio broadcast or whatever. If you do that, especially if you're on the K-State sideline, there will be plenty of batteries everywhere. If you run out of batteries, you'll be able to pick them up off the ground and just put them right into your headset at Colorado. I don't know if that's really going to happen at West Virginia, but you'll be able to do that in Boulder. So that's a very nice convenience.
That jars a memory loose for me. In the Big Ten, which I covered before going to the Big 12, the fan base that was kind of viewed that way, believe it or not, was not Ohio State. It was Penn State when you played at Happy Valley. And there's a reason why opposing bands no longer travel to Penn State, because their student section the night before or before the game would get plastic bags full of urine and just chuck them at the band the entire game. They just have urine exploding all over them.
Well, I mean, that's certainly been in the Colorado bag of tricks before. I was reminded this week that, Cole, do you remember in 2005, the Colorado-Nebraska game, when basically the entire Colorado student section got kicked out of the game? They evacuated, like they kicked out 2 full sections of Colorado students when they were getting beat 27-3 by Nebraska. Mike Tirico, who was doing the broadcast, called them idiots. It was quite a scene. Quite a scene.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. Look, I mean, I remember a lot of Colorado moments. I mean, I fortunately never experienced that level of detail of what went into that or the tactics. But I only actually went out to Colorado for a couple of different football games, and one time I was in the press box. Now, there was a time where you've heard me tell the story where I was driving to Boulder on a Saturday for the K-State men's basketball game in 2011, which is the game that Rodney Magruder's game-winning 3 got waved off when they went to the monitor, and then K-State played on Big Monday. Jacob Pullen beats KU, scores 38 points. et cetera. You guys know that story, but I'm driving along I-70 west going 80 miles per hour and a semi's mud flap flew off right in front of me and jacked my Honda Accord, and it sat on the windshield, and I went in a ditch that day. So that's my last memory of a trip to Boulder. I still went. I made it all the way to Boulder, covered the game. Game ended at 10:30 that night. Got on the road afterwards after filing my story and drove all the way back to Manhattan, getting in at 8:30 in the morning the next day. So,
man, newspaper life.
It's built different here, guys. The old school.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, so is Alinco. For all your home improvement needs, local company based out of KC. They're owned by K-Staters. They've been locally owned since 1986 in an industry that most companies have been bought out by big national brands. If you need new windows or a bathroom remodel, they have premium window replacements and Kohler Luxstone shower systems. They can also do new siding on your home. You don't need to be in Kansas City or Manhattan. They'll go to Western Missouri, Northeast Kansas, and the entire KC metro area. Go to alencohome.com. That's ALENCO home.com. ALENCO home.com to check out their services, including free estimates. And you can call Sam at 913-961-2165 to get things rolling. Okay, so the final headline here is going to be when we start to turn our attention toward the actual game here. Look, dude, it's really scary thinking about the K-State secondary trying to cover not just Travis Hunter. Like, this is where, I think people like, oh, wow, Travis Hunter, Heisman candidate. He draws a lot of attention, but that is a very deep receiving core with a ton of talent. I know Chris Kleiman mentioned at his press conference that he's been really impressed by Jimmy Horn, who's one of the few, I believe he's one of 4 returning starters that they have on offense from last year. But even, you look at Will Shepard, a Vandy transfer, who made an incredible diving catch in the end zone against UCF. He's been very productive. So is LeJonte Wester. So, you can do your best to try and neutralize Travis Hunter. I'm not sure that you're going to do much more than that, but even beyond him, they have so many weapons in that passing game, and we know that K-State's secondary has been pretty vulnerable at times this year.
It's probably a top 5 wide receiver group in the country, to be quite honest, if you take in 1 through 4. And I don't think that's hyperbole. I think they are that good. And when you have 4 guys that good, you're not going to be able to cover all 4 of them every single play. That's the problem. And then on the other side, Chris Clement's right. Say what you will about Shedeur Sanders and, the way he acts sometimes or how you feel about him off the field. But on the field, he is actually a risk-averse quarterback, right? He's a smart quarterback. He does his off-the-field persona and his on-the-field persona are completely different. He's kind of a risk-taker off the field and will, shout his mouth off a little bit. But on the field, he plays very smart, very reserved, doesn't take too many gambles, is very willing to go to the underneath route. A very high football IQ, isn't to be necessarily tricked. I think it's like last year and when Colorado's ran into some problems this year. I think truly the only one true and proven way to really give their offense problems is to rush the passer and take advantage of an offensive line that might be better but still isn't great.
Yeah, I think that's going to be the ultimate decision that K-State is going to have to make. Do you bring pressure? Do you sit back and drop 8 in coverage? Because Colorado has been notorious in the Deion Sanders era for not being able to protect the quarterback, and also Shedeur Sanders hangs onto the ball far too long. That's probably his biggest criticism. But to your point, DY, in his 16 games at Colorado, he has 41 touchdowns through the air to 6 interceptions. 3 interceptions this year, 3 last year. He had a 27-3 touchdown to INT ratio last year at Colorado. And if you go through his career of 4 years and go back to Jackson State, it's 111 touchdowns to 20 picks. So nearly a 6-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio. So he takes care of the football, and it's going to be hard to turn him over. Now, can you bring pressure at him? Sure. We'll get into the offensive line numbers in the offensive preview, but I think that's going to be the biggest decision. Can you beat their offensive line with a 4-man rush and drop 7 in coverage? Because it is not a very good offensive line. That's probably going to be your best way to attack these receivers, is to bring a pass rush and rush the throw from Shedeur Sanders. If he has time to sit back and just manipulate the pocket, it becomes problematic. Now, you don't have to worry about him necessarily taking off and running. That's not his game. He's not a guy you don't necessarily have to spy. with a linebacker because he's not really much of a running quarterback. His eyes stay downfield. He's looking to throw the ball. But to your point, guys, on the wide receivers, I mean, look, the challenge is that any of these guys can go off at any given point. They all have that capability. The top 4 wide receivers that you guys named, 711 career receptions for 8,600 yards and 74 receiving touchdowns. Travis Hunter, in just his couple seasons, he's at 561 yards this year. He's had 100 yards in 4 of the 5 games. And in each of the first 4 games, he had 100 yards. He has at least 89 yards in all 5 games. You mentioned Jimmy Horn, the guy with 1,850 career receiving yards, 148 career receptions, spent 2 years at South Florida, now 2 years at Colorado. LaJohntay Webster, 5'11" senior receiver transfer from FAU. Another guy that was a high-profile get from the Owls this offseason. He's a guy with 273 career receptions for nearly 3,000 yards, had nearly 1,200 yards receiving last year at FAU. And then, John, you mentioned it, Will Shepherd. He's that bigger-bodied wide receiver, has 17 receptions for 247 so far this year, spent his first 4 seasons at Vandy, 169 career catches for 2,314 yards and 22 touchdowns. So weapons all over the place. Most of them have gone over 100 yards in at least one game this season. And so that becomes the challenge is you can't just take one guy away. Like, it's not like Tetero McMillan, to your guys' point. Arizona doesn't have a lot of other weapons that are proven outside of McMillan. You think about the different opponents K-State went up against. Chase Roberts at BYU. There's nobody that comes close to having the number of weapons that Colorado has offensively.
Yeah, McMillan, I think such a good point to make on Arizona, because McMillan absolutely in the same conversation as Travis Hunter in terms of elite college receiver. Now, he's not the defensive back that Travis Hunter is, so don't take that as disrespect, Colorado fans. Like, we're talking about Bolitnikoff finalists there, but Arizona had like nothing else offensively that day. So it's going to be a heck of a lot different sort of challenge here for sure. You have something, DY? Okay. I had something there. And on the offensive line, Cole, I guess I'll tease this into the break. So you guys will have to wait through the good old home field read to get the pushback on this. Colorado fans, I think, would tell you that their offensive line is improving. They ran for over 100 yards against UCF. I think they allowed 2 sacks in that game. They protected Shedeur a lot better because, he's had a lot of 6, 7, 8 sack games in his Colorado career. And I did see the other day, like Jordan Seaton, who's the high-profile 5-star offensive tackle that they got, that's a true freshman. Like, he made the on-3 true freshman All-American, midseason All-American team. I think they feel like their offensive line is improved here at this point. Just, again, trying to protect us from the comments, guys. I'm trying, okay? Maybe if I wear a couple extra layers of home field apparel, that'll help protect me as well. Homefieldapparel.com is where you can find the best college gear around. Colorado fans, I'm sure they have great Colorado designs there. I haven't really looked at them, but I know that they have 50-plus K-State designs if you want to go check those out. Old school gear. It's the best stuff around. You'll see a ton of it at Bill Snyder Family Stadium and at Bramlage Coliseum this year. So make sure you get to homefieldapparel.com. They have 100-plus other teams like Pitt. God, gross, Pitt. I was hoping that was Vandy. I saw DY had yellow shirt on. I thought it was Vandy. Instead, it's Pitt.
Undefeated Pitt, by the way.
Yeah, whatever. Eli Holstein. That's fine. Yeah. There's a saying our friends in Morgantown have, DY. It's ESP. Okay? So that's what I'm going to say to you. ESP. But if you want to get it at homefieldapparel.com, you can. And use promo code 3MA24. That's promo code 3MA24 for 15% off your first order. Colorado fans, we're saving you money. 3MA24, 15% off your first order at homefieldapparel.com. And we're back in just a moment.
Looking for tickets for your next event? Tickets for Less is your #1 source. Save big on every purchase when you use promo code KCSN at ticketsforless.com. When you discover a new binge-worthy show or a song that you play on repeat and you just have to share it with your friends so they can experience just how awesome it is too? Well, that's how we felt when we discovered that Mint Mobile offers premium wireless for just $15 a month when you purchase a 3-month plan. It's such an awesome deal, there's no way we could keep it to ourselves. Friends don't let friends overpay for wireless. Say bye-bye to your overpriced wireless plan and switch to Mint Mobile. All plans come with high-speed data and unlimited talk and text, delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. You can use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan and keep your own phone number and bring along all your friends. Ditch overpriced wireless with Mint Mobile's deal and get 3 months of premium wireless service for just $15 a month. To get this new customer offer and your new 3-month premium wireless plan for just $15 a month, go to mintmobile.com/3ma. That's mintmobile.com/3ma. Cut your wireless bill to just $15 a month at mintmobile.com/3ma. $45 upfront payment required, equivalent to $15 per month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes on unlimited plan. Additional taxes, fees, and restrictions apply. See Mint Mobile for details.
Okay, Cole, do you have any rebuttal to the offensive line portion of that?
All right, let's get down to the offensive line notes on Colorado. Okay. All right, here we are. So I watched actually a great show by the Pro Football Focus college show. They do a really nice job, Max Shedwick, Dalton Wasserman, and watched that last night. Now, per PFF, and again, I take their rankings with a grain of salt a lot of times, their offensive line grades out as number 84 nationally. They've allowed pressures on 35% of their dropback attempts, ranking 108th in the country. They're 114th in sack percentage allowed, getting sacked on 8.1% of their dropback attempts. Now, keep in mind, Shedeur Sanders was sacked 52 times last year. He's been sacked 17 times this year. So last year he was sacked, over 5 times a game, or right around there, a little more than 4 times. This year it's been cut down a little bit, but still a problem. Tackles for loss allowed per game, 7.4, number 113th in the country. Our guy Parker Eves on our Discord over at patreon.com/3ma stated the other day that all 5 of Colorado's offensive linemen rank in the top 10 in the Big 12 in pressures allowed. All 5 are in the bottom 15 of Big 12 offensive linemen in pass block efficiency. Look, we got to get into this because K-State ranks 25th nationally per PFF in pressure rate at 38%. But according to those guys, they're 91st in pass rush win rate, which does not surprise me because when you watch K-State, it feels like the majority of the time that they're able to generate pressure comes off blitzes, and K-State does not blitz that much. So while they have blitzed, when they do, they've been relatively successful at getting to the quarterback and getting him on the ground or achieving pressure. But when they don't, 3-man, 4-man pressure, they've struggled to get a good pass rush. Can they win one-on-one? That's what pass rush win rate is. Can they beat their man one-on-one? Can Brendan Mott, who's had a fantastic season so far, can he get off his guy and get to Shedeur Sanders? Can Tobi Osensami start to generate more of a pass rush again like we saw in the season opener? And he's had some moments, but that's going to be a big part of it. But yeah, the offensive line has improved, but it's still not good. They're 99 nationally in line yards when it comes to the running game at 2.82 yards, which means that 2.82 yards per rush is attributed to their offensive line. It's 99th in the country. So I don't know, guys. I don't think the offensive line is all that much better. To your point on the running game, John, I mean, they have run the ball a little bit better. Now, you factor in Shedeur Sanders' losses via sack. He's lost 107 yards on 17 sacks. So if you take that away, Colorado has 118 carries this year and 510 yards on the ground, which is an average of 4.3 yards per rush. Their top 2 leading rushers, around 117, 113 yards, but they both average 4.9 yards per carry. But Colorado is 133rd out of 134 teams in rushing play percentage. So they are not going to look to line up and gash you in the running game. They are a drop-back throwing team, which is why K-State probably needs to go light in the box, play more nickel or dime, because they're going to drop back and throw it. You take your risks with them lining up and running. You dare Colorado to run the football. That's what you want them to do. And so you might go a little lighter in the box and drop guys in coverage. K-State will have to make a decision. Do they drop in coverage and drop 7 or 8 and let Shedeur Sanders stay in the pocket and pick you apart? Or do you bring pressure? I think you bring pressure a lot at him and trying to hurry his throws.
With Jordan Seaton, the on-3 team, the freshman midseason All-American, you have to remember there's probably 7 offensive linemen, 2 freshman offensive linemen that start. So.
Good point. Yeah. It's a good point.
You know what's interesting, guys, about Colorado, though? So, we talk about this offense, and you watch all these shows, and you get really scared, right? Because they have a lot of weapons, especially at receiver. But they haven't not really capitalized in terms of actually scoring. Think about this. They're averaging 2.24 points per drive. That's 68th in the country and number 12 in the Big 12. Only Houston, Baylor, Oklahoma State, and Utah are lower than Colorado in offensive points per drive. Last year, Colorado was 64th nationally in points per drive at 2.21. This year, at 2.24. It's pretty much the same. Going up against a K-State defense allowing 1.82 points per drive, ranks 41st in the country. You think about this Colorado offense, though, guys. At home against Baylor, 24 points until they convert the Hail Mary on the final play of regulation. That's not impressive. Baylor was 126 in the country last year at points per drive allowed. They're 67th this year. They were improved, but not nearly good. Scored 28 on a really bad Colorado State team that's 105th in the nation at points per drive. The good defense they faced, Nebraska, which is number 4 in the country in points per drive, they scored 10 points against. They had 41 against UCF, which is ranked in the 90s in points per drive allowed each of the last 2 years under Gus Malzahn. So, yeah, they have not necessarily put up the points. Now, they got the weapons that strike fear in you, but the other thing I would say, guys, is I think red zone is going to be a big part of this game. So, Colorado, red zone offense, they are 37th in touchdown rate in the red zone, converting on north of 68% of their red zone attempts, 11 touchdowns and 16 attempts. K-State is number 6 nationally in red zone touchdown defense. Opponents have only scored touchdowns on 33% of their possessions inside the K-State 20. That's 5 touchdowns and 15 trips. Last year, K-State was number 2 in the country in red zone touchdown defense at 39.4% allowed, 13 touchdowns, and 33 red zone attempts. So can K-State have that bend but don't break mentality? Because ultimately, I think that is going to be the key in this game. Can K-State hold Colorado to field goals when they get it down inside the 25, 30-yard line? They're going to drive the field on K-State, but can it go back to those Tom Hayes days when he was the D coordinator at K-State, and can you just surrender field goals?
I mean, that's not really Tom Hayes. That's this defense, too. Well, I will say that's been an emphasis of Kansas State since the beginning of 2022 when they won the Big 12 title that year. Defending the red zone and keeping them out of the end zone, they view that as a key part of winning football games in the new era, and I couldn't be any more supportive of that strategy. And I think that's mostly what teams do to Colorado. The reason why Colorado has all this explosiveness, threats on the outside, but failed to score, as their red zone offense can leave a little bit to be desired at times, because guess what you got to do?
Run the ball.
You got to run the ball down there because it's a lot harder to throw in the red zone.
I agree. I mean, I think those will be keys, red zone defense, and then what are you going to do? How much are you going to have to pressure Shedeur? Can your front four be good enough? Before we get to their defense, I kind of want to spend a little bit more time on that. Like, I can't, because Cole, you raised the question, do we feel good enough about the front four to generate enough pressure without having to blitz much? I'm iffy on that. I got to be honest. I'm iffy on that.
I mean, look, I think this is a game where Tobias Insami is going to get a lot of snaps. I mean, do you have him come off the edge? Do you go more 4-down pressure at them? Do you play with 3 linebackers like you traditionally do in the 3-3-5, or do you take a linebacker off the field at times and put an extra D-back on the field? I mean, DY, what would you say that they would do?
You put an extra D-back on the field, it's harder to get pressure.
Yeah, the question, Derek, the question is, Can K-State get pressure with the front four? Like, how confident do you feel about that?
Yeah, but you're going to have to change some of your personnel groupings.
And I keep saying front four, front 3, front 4, whatever. It's with the D linemen.
You can't go 3-on-5 and expect to get pressure, even if it's against Colorado. That's the thing. You have to send somebody. So
right.
I would look for more 4-man fronts, to be quite honest, rather than maybe an extra D-back. But the process will probably do both.
What's best pass rush package?
Well, I worry about Tobias Insami against everybody but maybe Colorado, because what he has is the size, speed, explosive advantage. I think it works against Colorado because they have such a new offensive line, if I want to put it that way. Maybe not as technical as an offensive line. So I think Toby's good in this game. Obviously, you go Brendan Mott. Interior, I don't know. Travis Bates is a guy that they say is one of their better interior pass rushers, so I think about that a little bit. So it'll be interesting. Like you said, you got to pick your poison. You want to sit back and play coverage because you have like 4 guys to worry about. Or do you blitz and put pressure on Shedeur and put him in an uncomfortable situation while also knowing that he's still good enough to get rid of that ball in then he has guys wide open downfield because you had to send extra guys. So
yeah,
it's a damned if you do, damned if you don't. What I think a lot of teams have started to do, and even Nebraska did well against Colorado, mostly because their interior defensive line wrecked that game, I would say. But they also told Colorado, you can have everything you want basically between the 30s, and then we're going to clamp down after that.
Yeah, that is very clearly what happened in the Nebraska game. Their defensive line really overwhelmed them and was pretty dominant. I don't think K-State has that level defensive line right now, to be completely honest. Now, it will help that it sounds like Uso Seumalo is going to be able to at least play in some sort of fashion. That was from Chris Kleiman at the press conference earlier this week. Not sure that it'll be like a full-time role, but that'll give you a little bit more depth, and really that's just good news for the rest of the season, that he's not going to be out long-term and that he's progressing that way. But we'll see. I think that's one of the things you'll need to focus in on when you're watching the game on Saturday. Defensively, I made this point earlier. I know Colorado fans seem to be very sensitive about the talk about their defense, and they definitely consider it to be a lazy narrative that the defense is not good. And, that's probably fair. Like, I think they have improved quite a bit. And it's not just the UCF game. Their track record basically since the second half of the Nebraska game, when they shut down Dylan Raiola and company in the second half, has been that they're certainly improved. I'm not saying that they're an elite defense, but when you have that good of a passing attack, that good of an offense, if you can have an above average defense, and suddenly you're a pretty darn good team. So I guess the debate is probably on the scale from below average to slightly above average. It maybe depends on how you're looking at things. I think if you look at it from second half of Nebraska on, things start to look a lot better than they do if you're taking the totality of the entire season. So do you consider Colorado a product of what they are at this point in the year, or that they're still capable of performances like, letting North Dakota State do quite a bit offensively in week one, and Nebraska just overwhelmed them in the first half?
Before Cole goes, I would say they're going to hate me for this, but I still lean on the below average side, because I do question a little bit of the competition that they have played this far. And you could say, well, UCF has a good offense, and we assume that, but gosh, UCF looks really like a dumpster fire currently.
Well, they did not look. I did someone else's show earlier this week. I already saw comments and like, of course UCF, Colorado beats them, they're a bad team now. And I was like, well, did you guys watch them against Florida? Especially their offense. Like Florida is a lame duck head coach about to get fired. It's a program with zero juice that's been abused by people. Watch what Miami did to them in week one. And like UCF could not do a damn thing offensively the entire day.
No. And quite truthfully, you don't just look at the score. If you watch that game start to finish, too, Florida dominated UCF in about every single capacity. So I wonder what Colorado has played because of some of that stuff. And at the end of the day, like, they've also not played a team that is capable of running the ball as well as Kansas State, to be quite frank. And they probably won't again after that. Kansas State's almost averaging 7 yards per carry, as Cole's mentioned throughout all of our shows this year.
Yeah, I echoed that quite a bit. UCF ran for 2.7 yards per carry against Florida, which has not been good against the run. Florida came into that game in the mid-80s in yards per carry allowed, and UCF ran for 108 yards on 40 attempts. So the conclusion that I kind of drawing at this point is UCF just isn't a very good football team, and the hype got far out, way ahead of the skis there when it came to that. Now,
well, I will say, Cole, I know you're the stat guy. Part of the reason the hype was that far out for UCF is like the computers love them. Like they were a computer darling through the first month of the season. So I will just at least put that out there.
And that part I struggle with because, I like the computer numbers too. And it didn't make sense to me that after UCF came back from down 21 at TCU to skate by to win 35-34, that all the computers all of a sudden said UCF is the favorite to win the Big 12.
And look at TCU now.
Yeah, I just didn't understand like why the computers love TCU to where that win and coming back from 3 scores meant so much at the time. And now we see with UCF, like, look, Colorado deserved to win that game. I don't want to make it seem like it was fluky. I know, John, you and I debated it on the Discord over at patreon.com.
Let me just, sorry to cut you off. To all the Colorado fans out there, I got crushed on our Discord for calling your win over UCF complete. I mean, even the Big 12 content that I do, I had people pushing back on me on that. I'm like, guys, they completely mauled UCF. They overwhelmed UCF. All three phases were really good. Like, they're improving in the areas that were perceived weaknesses for them. Like, you got to give them credit for that. Like, let's not, we can debate whether or not UCF is a good team. You can't debate whether or not Colorado kicked their ass.
Right. Here's what I will say before we go back to Cole. If what we think about UCF is true, not a really good football team, then Colorado went down to Orlando and did what they were supposed to do.
Yeah. I mean, now, would anyone have expected them to win by 27? If K-State went down and won by 20 plus at UCF, I consider that a hell of a win. And so credit to them for blowing the doors off UCF, especially as a 2-touchdown underdog. But what I will say about that UCF game, and again, I can't emphasize enough, Colorado deserved to win that game. I'm not going to go to where I thought it was and say fluky or anything like that. But I think the final score was not indicative necessarily of, how that game could have played out, because consider this, UCF had 5 drives that reached the following Colorado yard line that resulted in no points, all 5 drives. They reached the Colorado 2, the Colorado 5, the Colorado 14, the Colorado 33, and the Buffs 37 yard line in that game, and they got 0 points from those 5 drives. Now, credit to them, and John, you brought up the stat earlier this week that they're good at, they have the stop rate stat, and we'll get into the red zone defense numbers because, again, red zone is going to be a key part of this game. Can you capitalize when you drive the length of the field against the Buffs? But that's going to be a huge component. The other thing I will mention, guys, about K-State, when you look at the road history, like K-State has to get off to a better start on the road. Consider this, if you go back to last year, so let's start with this year and work our way back. They trailed at half 20-10 at Tulane. They trailed at half 17-6 at BYU, trailed 20-16 at KU last year, 17-7 at Texas, trailed 20-7 at Oklahoma State, trailed 17-14 at Missouri at half. The only game they led last year dating to now at halftime was at Texas Tech, 17-14. So K-State has to get off to a better start. You do not want to be playing from behind. You do not want to be in a situation where you potentially have to abandon the running game against Colorado, where they get out by 10 to 14 points ahead of you, and then you've got to become a drop-back passing team. You want to be able to run the ball against these guys, and while they are significantly improved against the run, I'm not going to deny that. When you look at the numbers, it's there. They've definitely gotten better. I still think K-State can line up and run the ball against them. You consider the K-State offensive line yards, and this is per our guy, KSU_fan, Jimmy, 3.93 line yards, so nearly 4 yards per carry is attributed to K-State's offensive line. That is the second best mark in college football. So K-State's offensive line has been terrific against the run. They run for over 200 yards in all 5 games of the season. Dating back to last year, they'd reached 200 yards or more in 7 consecutive games, one of the longest stretches in school history. They're going to be going up against a Colorado defense at 1.7 points per drive, number 32 nationally, number 4 in the Big 12. That is a huge jump from last year. They allowed 2.78 points per drive last year, 117th in the country. The F-plus defensive rankings has Colorado number 63 nationally to date. Last year, they were 108th in the F-plus rankings of Brian Fremeau. The SP-plus of ESPN, they're number 74 defensively, a significant upgrade. Now, you can credit a lot of this probably to Robert Livingston, the defensive coordinator that Colorado brought over this offseason. He spent 12 years at the Cincinnati Bengals. Now, John, you know about the Lou Anarumo, a guy you always hear, as we're Chiefs fans, and he's given the Chiefs some fits defensively in his time against Patrick Mahomes. And Robert Livingston worked under him for 12 years at the Cincinnati Bengals, and he has done a nice job improving this defense. They brought in some significant transfers that have really helped boost them. When we look at that run defense, according to Pro Football Focus, last year they were the 11th worst rated run defense in the country and graded as the 11th worst. This year they grade out as the number 13 run defense in the country through 5 games. They currently have the highest run D grade in the Big 12, according to PFF. Their linebacker run D grade ranks number 8 nationally, and that's largely in light of Nakai Hillgreen, who's started his career at Michigan, linebacker, talented player, and Levante Bentley, who started his career at Clemson. Both transferred in. Now, Bentley was there last year. Green is new this year. And brought in some good guys up front. I'm gonna try and I had to go to Houston's website to pronounce it.
Chigozie Nwankwo.
Yeah, because Houston actually put the pronunciation out there. Colorado did not. Chidozie Nwankwo, I believe is how it's pronounced, DY, according to what I got. Chidozie Nwankwo transferred in from Houston, defensive tackle who had 32 career starts heading into the season. He comes in. DJ McKinney, solid player in the secondary, transfer from Oklahoma State. Preston Hodge, solid corner, transfer from Liberty. Then they added 2 pass rushers from Pitt, Deion Hayes being one of them, who had 10.5 tackles for loss and 4 sacks last season with the Panthers. And then BJ Green, a 6'1", 270-pound defensive lineman who transferred in from Arizona State. As a junior last year, he had 6 sacks and 11 tackles for loss. Colorado's allowing just 1 yard per carry before contact. That ranks top 25 nationally as well. They're 53rd in rushing success rate defense. If they're going to be going up against a K-State offense that's number 6 in the country in rushing success rate and an explosive run game, that's number 26 nationally. Colorado defense is number 80 in the country in explosive run defense. So I think you can get some big plays against them. One of the key stats that we talked about earlier when it came to the other side of the ball, red zone again. Colorado is number 7 nationally in red zone scoring defense. Only allowed points on 62% of red zone attempts, 13 scores on 21 attempts in the red zone. And when you go to touchdown rate, they've allowed touchdowns on 43% of red zone trips. That ranks 18th in the country. K-State's red zone offense was number 2 nationally last year in terms of touchdown rate at 78.5% in 2023, number 2 nationally. This year, they're 45th in the country at 66.7%. They've converted 12 touchdowns on 18 attempts. They got to be better in the red zone. Can't be like BYU. Cannot settle for field goals when you drive the length of the field. You got to punch it in and capitalize. Get off to a good start against these guys. Don't have it be like the BYU game or all those other games I rattled off where you're trailing at halftime. K-State has to be better, especially in the first half of this game, so you're not playing catch-up.
I chuckled because when Cole said we have to give credit to Robert Livingstone, the new D coordinator, he almost said Robert Lipson.
That'd be a hell of a defense, man. I'd be interested to see how that looks. Yeah, Cole, I mean, the point on K-State being able to run the ball, I think K-State is a good enough rushing offense that they will be able to run the ball on basically anybody this year. I mean, we saw it even the BYU game and they got blasted. Like, they were running the ball just fine. But the problem is, like you said, if you fall behind, if Colorado's killing your secondary and you have a turnover or two, now you're in trouble because you have to get away from the run. That doesn't benefit you as much. And Colorado, back to that UCF game, they forced 4 turnovers against UCF, and K-State has been somewhat turnover prone this year. Avery's got 4 picks so far this year? 4 picks.
Yeah.
DJ Giddens had the fumble 6 against BYU. Like, they've been a team that is capable, certainly, of becoming turnover prone. So you can't be doing that. You can't be doing that and falling in a hole because then it will take away the ability to run the ball.
My fear for Kansas State this year, at least from an offensive standpoint, is that they can get games scripted out of games pretty quickly.
Yeah, I mean that's what
because if they get into situations where running the ball really isn't a choice, then I think they're in trouble.
When I listened to the PFF College show last night, the one thing they said is that they feel like Colorado has more avenues to win because they can come from behind. If you get up by 10 or 14 points, they have the capacity to still come from behind. They didn't know if K-State getting down 10 or 14 can work their way up. The K-State's avenue to win is to get off to a good start, run the football, control the clock.
That's true. Yeah. They're a team, like, they even talk about that in the NFL. There are teams that can get game scripted pretty easily. Like, if you jump on K-State, you're in a really good spot.
And just one other thing real quick on special teams. Colorado's 97th in the country in the SP Plus on special teams, but K-State hasn't been necessarily great on special teams either, guys.
Explosive, though. Explosive on special teams. I've actually, you're right. I put that as a key to the game for me already, too, is that Colorado, as a program and the way they structure themselves, don't nearly emphasize special teams enough to not have some issues maybe against a team like K-State that will scheme a special teams touchdown or 2 every now and then.
Yeah, and I mean, consider this. I mean, and look, K-State's right there with them, but Colorado, against Baylor, Colorado gave up a kick return touchdown that was big in that game. Colorado's 114th in average yards allowed per kick return, and nationally at 134 FBS. K-State's 111th there. So.
You know why they are? Because Kansas State's terrible at field position right now because they're not able to get good field position on kick returns, and their kickoffs have been problematic until the last game or two.
Well, I don't even think, DY, correct me if I'm wrong, because I was going to pull this stat and I didn't have time to do it, but has K-State even had a drive that started an opponent field?
Not yet. No, it's they haven't had a drive start anywhere but inside their own 40. So that's why their special teams, it looks worse than what it is when you look at that rink, because some of that's just luck too, I will say. And they gave up a fluky punt return at BYU because they were all going for the fumble, so that everyone gets out of their lanes.
Which is why K-State ranks 118th in average yards allowed per punt return. Now, Colorado's 119th. So 114th in average yards allowed per kick return and 119th in punt return out of 134 FBS teams is Colorado. So that be an area that you can make a big play. The other thing I will say is Colorado is an undisciplined team, guys. Consider this, and they're 4 games against FBS opponents, 10 penalties for 75 yards, 12 for 115, 9 for 104, 6 for 45. They've been penalized in their last 4 games 37 times for 339 yards, an average of 85 yards per game. They're 116th in the country in penalty yards per game. K-State's number 28 in penalties per game.
The problem with K-State's penalties is when they happen. That's been a really bad issue this year. But yeah, sometimes you have to dig into the numbers because context matters here. The K-State's punt return defense, they've had problems with only 1 punt return this year. Yeah. And the problem is that it went for 100 yards because they were going for a fumble.
Colorado going with like the 1998 K-State strategy there. Overwhelm people with talent. You can be penalized 12 times a game. It's crazy. I remember when I pulled those stats the other day.
Shiloh Sanders have like 30% of those.
He is back, by the way, this week.
Yeah. That's great news. Shiloh's back, baby. Get him on the field.
Shiloh.
Young man.
Shiloh Sanders.
I will say, it is funny if you do read, like you're talking about these Colorado fans, what they say. They are definitely out on Shiloh, though.
No, not the ones I was reading, DY. I don't know. We'll see. Quick hitters. Speaking of the Sanders family, which number will be higher on Saturday? Shador passing touchdowns or Avery Johnson total touchdowns? If you are curious, Shador has 14 passing touchdowns this year. Avery has 11 total touchdowns.
I will say Shador. Because I think they're going to score a little bit, and I don't think Colorado's going to have any rushing scores.
Well, the Oklahoma State game was Avery's first rushing touchdowns of the season, correct?
Correct.
I'll take Avery. I think K-State's going to buckle down in the red zone. I think they're going to. I don't think Shador Sanders will get any rushing touchdowns, and so I think they buckle down in the red zone. I'll take Avery to have more touchdowns overall.
I'm going Shador, but hopefully that means DJ Johnson or TJ Giddens. It would be awesome if DJ Johnson scored a touchdown on Saturday. Dude, DJ looks like he could still score a touchdown on a Saturday, by the way. DJ Giddens, of course. Cole, I bring up this question. This is mainly for me and you. I mean, DY, you're certainly welcome to participate if you want. But I bring this up to say that the Colorado history is, I was like thinking back to like all these Colorado games from obviously previous iterations of the conference. I was like, man, there was a lot of... Colorado was a real bitch for K-State to deal with there, man. I mean, there's not... So the question is, what's your favorite K-State Colorado memory? And I would probably go... I mean, I was there in 1997, which was the... Bill Snyder finally got over the hump and beat them. He had tied them in 1993, which was a very big deal at the time. But finally they beat Rick Neuheisel. I think it was 37-20. I remember being at that game. The Jumbotron kept flashing up. The buff stops here. People were really getting Rick Neuheisel with some funny chants from the crowd. That was a big thing. It was a big deal. It was a lot of fun to drill them in Boulder in 2000 too. That was a particularly fun game. But God, like outside of that, I was like, I don't know, man. I mean, the 1995 meltdown was like really painful when you would have gone to the Cotton Bowl had you won that game and they just fumbled it away late. 1994, they got kind of screwed on a bad 4th and goal call and lost to a great Colorado team in Boulder in a close game. 2002, I mean, kept them from a BCS bowl by letting, I don't know, was that still Chris Brown just run roughshod all over them in that game? And 2004, Joel Klatt, man, you think about Joel Klatt, that dude throws a Hail Mary with like 12 seconds left to snap K-State's bowl streak in 2004. I was just like, feels like there's so much bad in the Colorado memory bank.
Was it Jeremy Bloom that really hurt him in 2002 as well? Receiver, kicker.
Yes, I believe Jeremy Bloom did. I I was even reading the recap of the 2003 game, which K-State won by a lot. It was like 49-20, but that was immediately after the Oklahoma State loss, when that season, which had national championship aspirations, had kind of, at that point, gone in the tank. Jeremy Bloom ran a kickback for a touchdown in that game. I was like, dude, Jeremy Bloom just terrorized them all the time. That's Colorado fans. Google that one. Jeremy Bloom, very interesting story. Olympic skier. Google Jeremy Bloom. That's an interesting bit of Colorado history for you guys.
John, you'd be impressed. Vanessa had me watch the docket. Molly's Game? Is that the movie? Isn't that based off Jeremy Bloom's sister?
I don't know. You got more Jeremy Bloom knowledge than I do, apparently.
Yeah, Vanessa helped educate me on that. Look, the 2002 game really stung because, I mean, that K-State's probably a Big 12 championship team if they win that game in Boulder. I think it was, 35-31, and they just couldn't make the plays when needed. 97 to me is my favorite game. I mean, I remember always seeing the highlight, and so it was a cloudy day, if I remember right, like kind of a cloudy.
It was overcast, cold, yeah.
Yeah, and I remember the highlight of, Travis Oaks going over the middle of the field, tight end, making the catch. Just
Travis Oaks. Justin Swift.
Justin Swift. I don't know why I said Travis Oaks. Justin Swift making the catch over the middle, trucking the defender, and going into the end zone for a touchdown. John, was Colorado ranked going into that game? Like, what was the buzz on?
I don't think. No, I think K-State was definitely a heavy favorite in that. That was not Rick Neuheisel's best team. I don't think.
I'd go 97.
You mentioned Rick Neuheisel, so I'll bring up something that I saw last night. I think this was on his Tuesday night CBS Sports Network show. He said, Colorado is hot. Shedeur is unique. Avery Johnson's skill set makes the Buffs' chances bleak. He picked K-State to win.
Rick Neuheisel, dude. I will say Colorado was 5-6 that year, by the way, Cole.
Rick Neuheisel, actually, I'll tell you what, he's really good at media. He's fun to listen to.
Well, I like the guy. I was about to tell this story. So when he was at UCLA, 2009, student radio, we got to go out there and call the game at the Rose Bowl. And my guy Morgan, dude, shout out to Morgan. I hope he's listening. But he was with us and in like a full suit. And I'm trying to remember what happened. Our Uber, it got screwed up and we got dropped off way too early. So we had to walk a mile and a half in blistering heat to get to the Rose Bowl. And then we finally got there and we walked down on the field, and right about the same time we got there, Neuheisel was just walking out to come do a scan of the place and hang out. And he was super friendly. He could tell we were student radio, and he came up and started talking to us, just having a nice chat and asking us about things. And then, but he turned over and looked at Morgan, who was just drenched, this dress shirt, just completely soaked in sweat. And he just looked at Morgan and he goes, well, you're real lathered up, son. So that's my Rick Neuheisel memory. I like the guy. Cole, DY, you can answer this too. Cole, would you rather experience walking out of the Mizzou game last year again, or walking out of Folsom Field after a loss on Saturday night? Which one would you rather go through again?
Missouri 100 times. That was in broad daylight. I got to be honest. The kick time here, being that late, Colorado fans having all day to drink and get ready for that game, and walking out potentially after a loss at midnight does not sound entirely safe to me or like a fun experience, especially in the first return trip to Boulder and the first time these teams play in 12, 13 years. So give me Missouri 100 times out of 100. I didn't have any real problems walking back from Missouri, John. You were the one that got a little more fired up. For once, I was the calm one, and just kind of somberly to the car with you and Casey.
From what I've gathered in stories from the past, walking back to your car in Boulder sounds like a much more awful experience based on what the perception of Colorado fans and students are.
Oh man, I've heard stories. Was it you, John, that told me? Someone told me before that they put beer bottles.
The beer bottles, yes. I've told this story. I've told this story many a time. I will tell it very quickly. So I went in 2008 and 2010 for student radio to games in Boulder. Surprisingly, that was a place I never went. We went to a lot of road games when I was growing up. We didn't actually ever go to Boulder, but I went in 08 and 10. And I think that was the 10 trip. We had to take a university vehicle, so it had the K-State university logo on the side. Not even just a power cap, but the university logo. So we had it parked, and when we got back to the car, we reverse and you just hear like, because, Colorado fans had put 4 beer bottles under the tires. Now, luckily, nothing happened. They were fine. We got home okay. But that's what you'll be dealing with.
John, do you remember the 08 game was the game where where Ron Prince, right before halftime, K-State was inside its own 10-yard line with about 6-7 seconds left in the half. And rather than just punting the ball away, he had Josh Freeman roll out and chuck it as deep as he could out of bounds to run the clock. And I swear that clock still had 1 second on it when the ball hit out of bounds. Like, it was close. I mean, what an idiotic play. That he would have given Colorado the ball inside the 10 to kick a field goal right before half. K-State lost that game 14-13. So I was in the press box for that game. And it sounds like you were there too. I didn't even realize that.
I was. I was in the student/national radio booth there. Yeah, we were. Who is least likely to be the head coach at their current school next year? Sonny Dykes at TCU, Mike Gundy at Oklahoma State, or Gus Malzahn at UCF?
That's good. I think they're all 3 back, but I'll go Dykes because that feels like a ship that's sinking very, very, very fast. And even though they were in a national championship not long ago, I get that. TCU still is kind of a proud enough program where I don't know that they'll put up with this kind of like this level of bad for very long. They missed a bowl game last year, right?
Yeah, 5-7.
And they could miss a bowl game this year. So,
and I think he'd get one more year only because of the national championship. Even though we all know Sonny Dykes was a one-hit wonder, and it was
you're probably right. I just think he's less likely than the other two. Like I think UCF is definitely giving Gus Malzahn more time, in my opinion.
Yeah, they're going to give him more time because they think
unless Gundy just says F it and leaves. I mean that's where probably John's coming from here.
I'm taking Mike Gundy because I could see Gundy at any point either get a fresh start and head off somewhere else, or maybe even just walk away from coaching. I don't know. Like, he's made plenty of money in his career. He's clearly fed up with the NIL. He doesn't love this era of recruiting and the portal. And so I could see Gundy just say, hell with it, walk away, or he goes to another program looking for a fresh start. I'd actually lean toward Mike Gundy at this point.
It could be. And does he not love it because he's not supportive of it, or does he not love it because Oklahoma State doesn't give him what he needs? That's something I would say.
Well, he clearly was not very supportive of it at first. That was a harsh criticism a couple of years ago. I think it might be Gundy, and yeah, he's on the list because of him walking away. Obviously, they're not going to fire him, but it just feels like if you took the offseason that they had heading into the 23 season, and then you took their non-con in 23 where they lost by 26 to South Alabama and everybody's freaking out, this feels like the conference start that you expected them to have last year. So it's almost like it was just like a mirage what happened in conference play last year, and this is the continuation of it. And I wonder if, I don't know, just somehow they pulled a rabbit out of the hat last year, and this is really kind of the direction it's going, and Gundy says, to hell with it.
Well, the problem is they don't have a future at quarterback even beyond this year.
Yes, very true. What is the most likely scenario to play out of these 4? I'm going to give you 4 scenarios. You got to tell me which is the most likely to play out. Iowa State wins 10 games. Kansas loses 10 games. Both or neither?
Neither.
I'll take neither as well. Look, because KU's got Houston at home next, right? So KU should have their second win, and then then they just need to win 1 out of their last 5.
Have you looked at the last?
Do they have
what I will say is
no.
Here's
Here's Kansas's into the season, Cole. Houston at K-State, Iowa State at Arrowhead, at BYU, Colorado at Arrowhead, at Baylor.
As funny as it is to make fun of KU, and it is, they're going to win probably 3 or 4 games. So they're finding ways to lose. They're playing close games. They're going to pull 1 or 2 of these out. They're not getting smoked. They're just being idiotic. They're going to luck themselves. If you play enough one-score games, you luck yourselves into another win or 2.
Yeah, I mean, look, I don't think KU's losing 10 games. I think that's the least likely out of that.
Yeah.
Guys, I like making fun of Iowa State as much as the next guy. But they may well win 10 games this year.
Well, I mean, look, their schedule certainly sets up for them to do it. If they were ever going to do it, I mean, you talk about getting a schedule handed on a platter. What a gift they've gotten with this incredibly weak schedule. If they win at West Virginia Saturday, then yes, I think Iowa State will win 10 games. To me, that is going to be an ultimate swing game because I don't think they have another major test at this point until they get to Utah and K-State at the back end of the season after this. So if they lose to West Virginia, I don't think they're getting to 10.
I would agree with that, but I think that they're probably going to win, and I think that they probably are headed for like a 10-2 regular season here. That would be my answer.
We've talked about it. I think the Big 12 is too even for that to occur, but that's just my thought.
Lead pipe lock of the week. We were all 1-0 last time out a couple of weeks ago. Derek is 4-1. He got Texas Tech Cincinnati just by a nose. Cole picked K-State against Oklahoma State, which turned out to be very smart. He's now 2-3, and I finally got on the board 1-4 after Nebraska came through for me. Thank you, Huskers, at Purdue. This week, I am going to go with Utah. Even though we don't know exactly what's going on with Cam Rising, I don't particularly care. They're at Arizona State. They're coming off of a bye. They got embarrassed by Arizona when we last saw them. I think they've just still got enough to out-physical and overwhelm Arizona State, and that's a proud program that's going to get back on track after a bye. So I'd like Utah to win that game by a couple of scores at ASU.
What's the line that you're getting?
6, -6. Sorry. Yeah.
Oh, so it ballooned a little bit. It opened at Utah -3.5.
Yeah, that was the problem. Is by the time I was putting together the outline last night, I'm like, in the interest of fairness, I should just give the current accurate line. But yeah, if you could get that at 3.5, even like 4.5, I would be all over it.
I'll let Cole go since I'm mad.
Oh, well, I was going to, humble brag there. I think it probably, John, has drifted. I even see it at 6.5 now. Do you think it's because Whittingham's pulling his whole Cam Rising stunt again with the PR game?
I mean, he kind of is doing that. He was definitely being very optimistic yesterday. I don't even think he'll play. I think it'll probably be Isaac Wilson again. I don't really care though.
Yeah, it's went from 3.5 to 6.5 in the last 24 hours, which just made me think that. But again, Vegas has a really hard time reading it.
Yeah, they've been wrong on it a few times.
Yeah, because the Oklahoma State line went all over the place when they played them, and then he didn't end up playing. Look, I'm taking Cincinnati plus 3.5 on the road at UCF. Cincinnati's top 20 in the country, guys, in points per drive. And DY, I think you were watching the game against Tech too when they were playing in Lubbock, and we were texting back and forth. And John Cincy looks pretty solid. Like their quarterback.
They have a quarterback. That's the difference between Cincinnati this year and last year. They have a quarterback that's probably one of the 6 best in the league at this point.
I'm kind of out on UCF. Even their kicker, Colton Boomer, opting to go redshirt now and enter the portal. It's the third guy, I think, that's done it. I wonder about the culture right now in the UCF program, especially after dropping a couple games early. Cincinnati's been competitive in all of their games. They should have beat Pitt, blowing a 27-6 lead, and they were right there with a chance to beat Tech and Lubbock. So I'm going to take Cincinnati plus 3.5 at UCF.
The shirt is what it is. They're playing Cal this week, an ultimate letdown moment for Cal here after, nearly beating Miami and just like tanking in the fourth quarter and collapsing against the Hurricanes when College Game Day is there as well. Just a heartbreaker of a performance. Now you got to fly across the country and play Pitt. So Pitt minus 2.5.
That's a pretty good pick. It's making me wish that I would have been a little bit deeper into that one. Yeah, tough for the Calgorithm. Well, now we got to pick K-State, Colorado. I'm looking right now at the chain to my right, the K-State chain that I usually put on. I'm looking at another item that I have here to my left. And I got to be honest, guys. This is the ticket stub from the 1999 K-State Colorado game. Okay? It's the only, it's not the only thing I could find with Colorado on it, because I also found my ticket stub to the 2001 K-State Colorado game, a much less fun experience. I'm just going to cover up the K-State part here. I am picking Colorado to win 30-27. guys, I don't feel good about the spot here. Late night, again, K-State secondary, it really scares me trying to defend the Colorado defense. The Buffs are on a bit of a roll right now, and this K-State team playing road games right now, they need to prove more to me before I start feeling confident in a spot like this that they're going to win a game like that on the road. Could definitely argue, I'm sure Louis Riddick would, that they should be 0-2 on the road so far this year. So I'm not feeling good enough about it to pick K-State to win.
Neither am I. What I will say is, I said it after they lost it at BYU. Sorry, I'm going through a cold here. You can't skip the steps of growing up, right, or maturing and developing. You can't skip those steps. So they got really humbled in Provo. Now I think they know what it takes to compete, but you can't skip the step of just knowing what it takes to get over the top. So I think they compete a lot more. I think they fight a lot more, but it's another lesson, maybe the last one, and you got to figure out a play here or a play there that will win the game. I think Colorado has the dudes to do that rather than K-State because they have Travis Hunter, they have Shedeur Sanders, they have Jimmy Horn, those types of guys. So I'll say 33-27 Colorado.
You guys are so weak. So weak. No, it's not. Colorado needs to be humbled. I mean, the Colorado fan base needs a little slice of humble pie with some of the arrogance we're seeing based off what I just talked about. You beat Baylor on a Hail Mary in a game that you should have been down 10 when they miss a chip shot field goal. You go on the road and win UCF, and now all of a sudden we're talking about Colorado like this is some top 15 team in America. That's not the case. BYU, you talk about the steps and the growing pattern of winning. I think Colorado still has to go through that. Look,
Colorado, they're the home team. You do that on the road.
I mean, all right. They're the home team. All right. K-State is K-State minimizes mistakes and they take care of the football. I think K-State wins this game. And I still think K-State will be able to run the ball extremely effectively and control the clock and play smash mouth football. And that's what I would do to this Colorado team. I think K-State can win this game in the trenches. I trust K-State up front. And I trust K-State, even though they are 0-3 after a bye week in the last 3 seasons. I think they probably utilized the bye week a little bit better. And so I'm taking K-State to win this game 34-27. The SP Plus has K-State. Bill Connolly's SP Plus at ESPN has K-State with a projected margin of 8.7 points, 71% win probability, projects a 34-25 victory for K-State. I'm taking K-State.
He also had Colorado losing to UCF by 17, and they won by 29, 20, or 18.
27.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, a lot of the computers are closer than that, Cole. I saw a rundown of like all of them. It's a lot more like 55-45, 60-40. It is a slight lean to K-State, but I don't know. I'm spooked by this team on the road, particularly on the road at night right now. And Colorado's got some pretty capable talent and a defense that I think is getting better. So I got to see it. But hey, you guys can all hate on me and DY. I'm sure that'll happen at the Discord, patreon.com/3ma. If you want to join the Discord, basically big old group text talking K-State all day, every day, and a lot of fun characters over there. So shout out to all you guys on the Discord. Appreciate the work of Nick Springer behind the scenes. Thanks to all of our sponsors. Thanks to all of the Colorado fans for tuning in. We love you all. Enjoy the game on Saturday, and we will talk to you soon. Take care.